Unspoken Issues.
Hey everybody, just before we get into this episode, I wanted to give you a heads up. This is our second episode this week, as a matter of fact. We are making our way towards our interview with Gregory Wright. But before we get there, here is our discussion on Punisher No Escape. About the middle of this podcast, Darry had to drop out, so just be ready, because it seems like Dean and I take over and we just kind of leave Darry out of the final thoughts section. Don't worry, Darry gets to share more of his thoughts on the book when we discuss the book with Gregory Wright. So with that being said, let's get on with the show. Well, there you go. We're in full swing of June of 1990. You go to the comic book store. You talk the parents into going to the comic book store, and you walk in, and lo and behold, there sits on the shelf Punisher No Escape, an original graphic novel. Correct, Dean?
OGN, baby.
So what was the drive to pick Punisher No Escape?
We all like the Punisher. It's a nice, fun read. It's pretty simple. Has a nice B-movie action feel to it. It's really endemic of the time. It's a fun read, and also U.S. Agent is in it. I like U.S. Agent, and it's fun. I think this is the first time I think they ever met, and I don't think they've met terrifically often since, so it's neat because U.S. Agent is often characterized as a very asshole-ish conservative type guy, and so it's neat to see these two matches. We all know Castle's a favorite of lots of that mentality, even if I disagree, so it's fun to see these two guys with theoretically similar worldviews meet up, and it's the first time I had seen Paladin. Nobody used Paladin a whole lot in the 90s, it seemed. I swear to God, it's the only time I saw him. He might have been in something else. I can't say for sure, but no, it's a fun read. We all like the Punisher. I knew we'd be able to breeze through it pretty easy and pretty fun. Beautiful cover, beautiful art, guns.
Lots of guns.
There's some guns.
Lots of guns. Darry, did you read this before Dean came up with the idea to talk about it?
No, I'd never heard of it. I think I just missed it. I started reading comics shortly after this came out because I'm 100% sure if I had seen this, I would have wanted it. But I really enjoyed the heck out of this. This was a nice, good, easy read. Done in one. Punisher confronts two superheroes that it makes sense for him to encounter. He fights the Maggia, which I always love. And it gets in, gets you out. And it was a great time. And Dean already mentioned this, but that cover by Joe Jusko, man, that thing's great. I loved his work on the Marvel Masterwork cards back in the day. And again, seeing that cover, if I had seen it, I would have been like, please give me that. The thing I like most about it, though, is just what Dean said. The character work is great because a U.S. Agent, especially now that he's been on that Falcon and the Winter Soldier show, he holds a very specific place in the Captain America storyline, and to an extent so does the Punisher. So watching them come up against each other and have their ideas kind of be challenged by one another, I thought was great. And I thought was a very good use of a character that I always find incredibly interesting, even if I never find him to be very likable. And then Paladin, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but I don't know anything about this character. And every time he shows up, he just makes a bunch of smart aleck remarks and then disappears. So I thought he was a great foil.
Sounds like you know everything about the character.
There you go. So sometimes there's just not a lot of meat on that bone. But no, really, I enjoyed this, and this will be one I'll be recommending in the future.
So, aside from anything else that you could shed some light on with when it comes to Paladin, it sounds, as far as his power set goes, it's like he's a mercenary for hire with super strength. Right?
Yeah, that's pretty much, honestly. He first appears in one of, I can't remember his first appearance. I think it's in one of those Marvel premiere type books. Then he's in Marvel Team Up. He was a guy who kind of just floated around, if you ask me. I don't think he ever really caught on, but he makes sense to put it in the Punisher's world. Later on, he'll be in Heroes for Hire around the Civil War. I want to say he's part of that group for 5 minutes or so. And I want to say he even turns on them during the Civil War, if memory serves. But I could be wrong about that. It's been a while since I've read it. But that's really it. He's just a good character for the Punisher to meet because he just likes to do stuff for money and take out criminals for money. One of the things that I like to remind people a lot is that Frank Castle's a criminal, without a doubt. I have 2 copies of his wanted poster up in my bedroom, which it's funny to read because there's no major crime he hasn't committed, with the exception of arguably human trafficking and some kind of rape, sexual assault. Otherwise, he's done it all, from murder to kidnapping to hijacking, grand theft, larceny, gun running, you name it. The guy's committed this crime, and he has to in order for his mission to work because the legal channels theoretically can't dispense the justice / vengeance needed. But it makes sense for the run against Paladin. I actually didn't get this book off the shelf. I bought it. It would have been 1993, summer 93. I went to this comic show in Little Rock, one of the only ones I got to go to. Partly because they didn't have a lot, and partly because they were all 2 hours away. And I remember buying this box of Punisher comics for like $40, maybe 30. It's very important to get this price right. And it had a whole bunch of single issues in there. Then it had a few OGNs. It had The Prize and Bloodlines and this. And I remember just the cover blew me away. And I've been a big U.S. Agent fan from the time I saw him, just because I thought the first time I saw him was the 91 card. And I was like, U.S. Agent? That looks like Captain America. I like him. Because it was new to me and everything. And then from there, you learn that he's essentially the Marvel Universe's Guy Gardner. He's this guy who's an asshole and a jerk.
Oh, I like
nobody
that.
likes to be around him.
That works.
But at the same time, he does the right thing. He can be counted upon. He is not a good teammate as far as locker room camaraderie, but he is a really good teammate on the field, if that makes sense. So I like that he fills that role, that we have to be reminded that everybody who would get superpowers in the world would not necessarily be a very good or very bad person. Also, there would be this in between, and those people could go either way. And Guy Gardner and U.S. Agent are the kind of guy, they're people who went with the good side. And you're like, oh, that guy's an asshole. But much like approximately 40% of Larry Hama's written G.I. Joe file cards, he's an asshole, but he's on our side. You remember? I swear to God, a bunch of them in with that. So it's kind of like that. It's good in my personal life. Not that I've met anybody just like U.S. Agent or Guy Gardner, but I think y'all would agree. If you ever win these people over, they're incredible friends. They're very loyal. They stick with you, and you see that in these characters as they go along. But to win them over is very difficult, because at first they just think nobody has any clue about what's going on except them. And I don't know why you don't just do what they're saying. They're so smart and have it all so figured out. In the meantime, Batman's laying them low with a punch.
Fair enough. Just real quick to kind of give you the last 5 appearances of Paladin here, because I think it's kind of important to set up, just like you were saying. He's not used very often.
He's been in Deadpool too, right?
Well, when I say last 5, I'm talking about prior to No Escape. So this is all like 89, 86 to 89.
I want to say when they did the Mercs for Money storyline, like he was one of them.
I could tell you for sure. He's in Deadpool Volume 5, 21, 22, 27. So last 5 appearances. So he was in the Avengers. This might have been the one you were talking about, Darry, earlier. Avengers from 86. This is issue number 271 and also in issue 273. And then he showed up probably for a single story in Marvel Comics Presents. This was number 21 in 1989. And then the one appearance that I remember him from is the Amazing Spider-Man, where McFarlane did the cover and Paladin's on the front of the cover. He was in issue 320 and 321 of Amazing Spider-Man from 1989. And then
is that the assassination plot?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, the assassination plot, part 1 and part 2. And then the appearance prior to this is in Moon Knight. From April of 1990, it was the trial of Moon Knight, so I assume he was probably brought in to bring in Mark Spector. But
he was actually an expert witness. They paid him for his testimony because Mark Spector's a mercenary, like he is.
Okay,
you know what it is? So they paid him to testify and be like, "Oh, he didn't have to do this or what."
Okay, all right,
I made that up. That's not true.
And
I don't know what happened, but wouldn't that be a better story than probably what they did?
Mark Spector would be the worst witness to have on the witness stand. Could you imagine? It'd be like, "Sir, were you there?" Well, one of me was.
I was driving a cab.
Yeah. You get him talking, and then his I don't know what you call them anymore, but the other personalities start coming out, and it's just like, "Oh, no, you are not helping our case. Please get it off the witness stand as quickly as possible."
All right, well, let's go ahead. We'll jump into the synopsis here. Again, this came out in 1990, June of 1990. Our creative team here is written by Gregory Wright, Tod Smith on the breakdowns, Danny Bulanati on finishes, Ken Lopez lettering, and Gregory Wright and Steve White coloring. And just by the way, I hopped onto Mike's Amazing World of Comics. Gregory's got quite a few writing credits, but it's funny because there's a lot of them where it's like Gregory writes it and he's got to definitely get his hand in the colors. That's I think his bread and butter right there, and he loves to be involved in that. So anyway, all right, here is our synopsis. No Escape unfolds amidst the gritty streets and shadows of New York City. The story kicks off on Central Park West, where the dark underbelly of the Maggia, Marvel's version of the Mafia, sets the stage for tragedy. Vincent Mangiano's malicious plot results in the devastating explosion of John Bartali's home, wiping out him and his wife and child. Frank Castle, the relentless vigilante known as the Punisher, learns of the tragedy and with his confidant, Microchip, contemplates the need to halt the bloodshed, even as the Maggia turns on itself. Driven by a relentless pursuit of justice, Frank's original lead is lost, but Microchip finds him a new target, and a high-speed chase ensues, culminating in a gripping gunfight atop a speeding train. The target facing the relentless Punisher opts for a desperate leap off the train, choosing death over divulging information that could harm his family. Simultaneously, on Long Island, the enigmatic superpowered gun-for-hire Paladin falls victim to Vincent Mangiano's manipulations. Offered a $10 million contract to eliminate the Punisher, Paladin accepts the deadly proposition. In Washington, D.C., U.S. Agent John Walker is tasked with the mission to apprehend the Punisher, showcasing the Commission for Superhuman Activities concerns about a non-superpowered threat. The narrative weaves through Little Italy, where Frank confronts more Maggia members, leading to a rooftop firefight. A chance encounter with some lovebirds compromises his cover, triggering a chaotic pursuit. Frank finds himself facing Paladin, a formidable opponent for sure. A gripping
Not
battle.
just some lovebird, but some asshole mook should have been doing their job.
They were decided to make it out. He's going to show her the stars.
They could have been patrons at that restaurant. You don't know. They could have been patrons at that restaurant.
I do know. That guy was supposed to be guarding the back.
That's fair. The guy definitely was on the clock.
It was like, hey, I'm gonna show you the stars, honey. I'm not talking about the sky, right? That's what that guy was saying.
Oh, absolutely. Frank finds himself facing Paladin, a formidable opponent. A gripping battle unfolds, revealing Paladin's strength, but ending with Frank's escape into a body of water, which I assume this is, help me out, you guys. What did he dive into? Was it named what the river was? Was it
the Hudson?
The Hudson? What did he dive into the Hudson? Either way,
it's the Hudson or the East River, right? Those are the ones.
No, if he's in Little Italy, it's the East River. The East River. It doesn't go over that far towards the Hudson.
I can't remember exactly that, but Jesse, there are only two rivers in New York City.
Okay.
No, that's fair. Listen, it's an island. There's water everywhere.
I'm not mad about it. No, I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying, if you're ever in a trivia contest and they ask about a river in New York City, it's the East River or the Hudson River.
Or Hudson.
You can narrow it down to that. Those will probably be it.
The way you can remember it is the Hudson separates New York from Jersey for the most part. The East River separates New York from more New York. So.
Okay.
Right. And I'll get it confused because it's weird. The map kind of turns when you get to this part of the world. And so it starts, because you can leave New York and be in New Jersey, but you can also leave New York and be in New York. Yeah. Leave New Jersey, but be in New Jersey. It gets weird, but all I'm saying is, for the purpose of a trivia contest, you're playing Jeopardy. They ask about a river. It's one of the two.
Duly noted. 50%.
That's really the secret to most trivia as well, guys.
Okay.
Like, really, you just have to know the top three answers of anything. That's probably what it's going to be.
Can we talk about the amount of times in his career Frank Castle has jumped into a body of water in the 70s, 80s, and 90s surrounding the island of Manhattan, and he has gotten back out? His immune system must be so good at this point that it would rival Wolverine, because he'll go in the Hudson, he'll hold his breath down there. That'll kill anything, and the Punisher keeps resurfacing to do it again the next day. I just got to say, I know he's a local, but man has my respect.
All right. As the story unfolds, alliances and conflicts intensify. Microchip gathers intel on Paladin and the Maggia's involvement. Frank discovers Vincent Mangiano alive and intertwined with the criminal web. Intertwined with the criminal web. In a tense confrontation, Paladin resurfaces, leading to a life-threatening situation for Frank. The arrival of U.S. agent adds a new dynamic, turning the tables on the impending danger. The narrative reaches its climax in an explosive confrontation at, is it Lido Beach? Lido Beach? What is that? Any idea? Or is it made up?
I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. Right. I didn't know if that was an actual place or not.
It probably is. Long Island's like huge. Long Island's way bigger than Manhattan. So there's a lot of nonsense out there.
We'll go with Lido Beach, the heart of Mangiano's operations. Frank faces Paladin, disabling his high-tech weaponry while U.S. Agent enters the fray. The Punisher orchestrates a masterful ruse, creating the illusion of his demise. Walker, believing Castle is dead, presents the charred remains to the iconic Punisher shirt to the Commission, but still earns their disapproval. In the aftermath, on a distant rooftop, Frank and Microchip reflect on the tumultuous events. The war against crime endures, underscoring the unyielding commitment of the Punisher to his relentless pursuit of justice. So, yes, right there, that is a small synopsis of what happens in the book. I really didn't get into the whole intricacies here of some of the important parts, because I think it's definitely worth talking about. So I guess we'll start with Paladin here. Paladin shows up. He's doing exactly what we just talked about. He's kind of like a gun for hire. He's closing in on a bounty, but it turns out it's Vincent Mangiano has orchestrated this whole thing so he could see if this guy would be the one guy that could actually maybe take down Frank Castle. Turns out he is, at least in Mangiano's eyes. He passed the test, and so he's hired. And then we have, it's neat to see these two outside forces converging on the Punisher, and the Punisher trying to have to live. Because when you look at that cover, you kind of look at them and on that cover and you're thinking, well, these three guys are teaming up to go against something. That's not the case, though.
They're teaming up to go against your wallet.
Truth. Yes.
There's a $5 book in 1990.
That would have been a great turn of events if Garth Ennis were writing this. I feel like Paladin and U.S. Agent would have shown up, and Frank would have been like, wait, you're mad because you have to come after me because I have no superpowers. Paladin's got superpowers, and he's doing something that's very illegal. You should go fight him. And then the two of them just beat the hell out of each other on the margins while the Punisher went off and killed all the Maggia members. That would have been a great use of the remaining pages.
So you watch Paladin, who now is got Frank in his sights, and then you have also U.S. Agent, who is now tasked with bringing in the Punisher. Let me just ask you guys here, and Dean, I'll start with you. U.S. Agent, what's the deal with his tragic backstory? Did he lose some people? Clearly, that's referenced in this comic. Lost his family, or what happened?
I think a group called the Watchdogs killed his family, and
his parents. He didn't have
parents. Yeah, exactly, his parents. And I think it's because his secret identity got revealed somehow. But I wish Matthew Price was here. He's the big cap guy. But that's what I know is the Watchdogs killed his parents, and so he goes pretty nuts from that. And he was already nuts, so.
It's clear that it's affected him pretty deeply, but it's also something that Frank taps into to kind of get him on his side. Okay, because he shows up, I want to arrest you. And Frank's like, okay, all right, fine. You can arrest me. But look, I'm taking these guys out. These are guys that you probably just let me finish the mission. And it takes a few seconds, but Walker's like, okay, I'm in.
Only takes a few seconds. He is very quickly convinced, we're killing criminals without due process. All right, I was probably going to do that anyway. That's fine. No one told me we couldn't do that first before I take you into the legally questionable tribunal I work for.
Right.
Yeah, I like how Castle just knows everything about everything. He's like, what the fuck's the Commission doing after me? Blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, your parents, they're dead. How do you know all this?
Yeah.
This Microchip is probably on
Microchip is like
PBS. He's on the same bulletin board with Ken Cord from Birds of Prey, and he's just getting all the superhero gossip. He's just like, oh man, you should see what Scarlet Witch is wearing these days. My God, Magneto's back.
I don't know what the internet looked like in 1990 in the real world, but I'm sure in the Marvel universe, it was just people making crap up about super people. I think it would have been great.
Just news group after news group dedicated to the living lightning and like shooting star. This is huge fans. People. New Warriors hater 69 420 has long gone.
That was actually my first AOL screen name.
Oh,
you hate the New Warriors?
No, I'm kidding. I
was gonna say. I know you're into 69 and 420, but I didn't think you hated the New Warriors.
No, I like the New Warriors. I like them very much. That absolutely did sound like something I would have made as a screen name in high school.
Paladin definitely has the upper hand with Frank here when it comes to Frank realizes he's outmatched and he's got to get out of the way of Paladin, which he was able to escape him pretty successfully there by getting him tied up into the chains, then diving into the body of water and getting out of there. But outside the club, Paladin with a tisk gets the jump on old Frank, and I kind of knew that.
So Frank hits him in the nuts. What kind of big fucking super merc with super strength doesn't at least wear a cup or something? He hits him in the nuts. I don't blame him. He's right. There's this great equalizer. Also, it's weird that these fights, because Paladin is just owning Frank, but Frank holds his own fight against U.S. Agent, who presumably is about as strong, if not stronger, than Paladin.
John Walker does not seem like somebody that would pull his punches, in my opinion. And he nails Frank at one point, but regardless, Frank throws that punch and Walker catches it, and I'm like, oh shit, you're in the same boat here, dude. You need to do something. And Frank realizes pretty quickly, and of course, we already talked about how he talks Walker into joining him. I'll go ahead and throw out one of my favorite parts of this book, and that is Microchip going into the 7-Eleven.
Oh my God, me too. Love that. Micro, my people. I have been there. I've been there so many times. Ah, shit, what the fuck? I'm stoned and I'm going into the fucking convenience store.
And you're just listing off stuff.
And I'm stoned now and I'll be stoned later. And when I need a snack and there's so many options, how are you supposed to choose? You won't know until you get there and see it. And you probably better get out. My only disagreement with Micro is he didn't get like 3 things. You got to get like 3 things.
Right. He comes out of there with one thing.
One thing.
Pork rinds. Pork rinds.
He's like, zingers? No.
Nope.
That's another thing that's weird about this book, though, is Paladin acts like Castle's a chump. Oh, it's so easy to investigate him. But other times, it's very hard to penetrate these things or whatever. Also, in this day and age, Micro is unstoppable. They will bring you this stuff. And you go to the internet to get it.
That's the truth.
So he would have 12 layers of apps so that someone could bring him 1 bag of pork rinds that he also probably got for free. Or he got Bill Gates to pay for it through a backdoor hack.
That's the truth.
He'd be unstoppable now. He would not have to go out for snack.
No, he would not. I was curious throughout the whole book trying to see how Frank was going to get the hell out of this situation. I think that's what really had me going. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what's Frank going to do? He's got 2 superpowered dudes that are after him. How is he going to escape? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what's the name of the title? No escape. Uh-oh. So,
well, but that's the ending. That's how he does escape. He makes them think he didn't.
Yes, he did not. And everybody.
But it's also funny because don't they find out the Punisher's still alive in like 10 minutes? Why don't they just send him after him again? Be all right, you guys. He fooled us. Shucks. But we still have a huge Black Ops budget, so let's just send our next guy after him.
No, that's the way it would work.
Freedom Force.
That's it.
I was excited when someone mentioned Freedom Force. Is this a book about Punisher fighting Freedom Force? Because that would be amazing.
You know what? Honestly, you'd have to bring him back. But if he ever fought, if Punisher ever fought Freedom Force, he should just shoot the Blob in the head.
Oh my!
Like the Blob
goodness.
should just be nothing moves the Blob. Okay, well, cool. I'm not trying to move. He's actually do me a favor. Stay still. Again, you might not kill him. You might just knock him out. But I wish somebody would just do that once. Just like, okay, well, I will shoot you in the face with a fucking bazooka. I know you're somewhat invulnerable. It won't kill you, but it can't be all that pleasant.
That's all I have right now. I'm going to probably bounce off of some of the things that you guys have to say. Dean, I'll let you go first, man. What'd you think of the book?
Well, I remember really liking it back in the day, and I like it still. It's something that I wind up reading probably at least 2 or 3 times a year just because it's very comfortable. It's an easy read. I can skim through it. Everybody acts really cool in the book, from Paladin with his French cigarettes. Top brand. What brand? I would like to know. I mean, I almost looked up one of the fancy French cigarettes, but I didn't. But I thought that was funny. I thought it was cool that they got Paladin across as a man of refined tastes. That's why he had to get the money. He's also, as weird as this sounds, he's despicable. Of all the people in the book, somehow he's even slimier than the mob guys for the most part. Because it just seems like the mob guys believe something. And the Punisher believes something. U.S. Agent believes something. The Commission believes something. We can debate their beliefs, and most of these beliefs are incredibly flawed on some level. But they are in possession of an ethos, right? They do believe something. Paladin, if Punisher had been like, well, I'll give you $10,001 to leave me the fuck alone, probably would have done it. Oh, fuck, an extra $1, 20 more nickels. My God, that'll buy me so many more weird goggles.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
So, like,
Were you quoting the Big Lebowski there?
It was
that
the
just
Big
happened?
Lebowski. I was mentioning the Big
Oh,
Lebowski.
okay.
But it's true, though. Do you think Paladin comes across as the slimiest guy in the book?
But I think that's the point, too.
Right. No, I'm saying I like that about it. Somehow you're like, this Mafia Don is more honorable than this guy. Great. I love U.S. Agent. Big fan. Always great to see him. What I really like in this book, too, one of the things that's underrated, Jesse, is you got a new candidate for Cyberforce when the U.S. agent breaks Paladin's legs.
Oh, my goodness. To know,
would you accept Paladin into Cyberforce if they cybered up his legs?
Oh.
Put some digital he's on there, some exposed microchips, because that's how microchips work. You want
that's
them to
right.
get rank. You want every bit of every element in the environment, and they get in that silicone. So is Paladin okay for Cyberforce? No, I don't think so.
He's too swarmy, man. You can't bring him in on Cyberforce. He would be in there for 3 issues before he would get kicked off the team. That's what would happen. Happen. There you go.
All right, well, let me say this then. I thought that's what you'd say. But is he okay for codename Strikeforce?
Okay.
Mercenary team.
There you go.
Spare time.
There you go. Perfect for that. And we could even have a 3-issue story arc of him joining. I'm down.
Right.
I don't know what his name would be. I guess he would stick with Paladin.
He could probably keep Paladin versus Bloodbow. Nothing.
That's great.
But I knew I had to ask you that. But all in all, this is a time when the Punisher just really is firing on a lot of cylinders, and those cylinders are leading to mostly what feel like, and this is a high compliment, and it may not sound like to some people, but really good straight to VHS action movies. And I used to rent a lot of those. They don't have names like, I don't know, Missile Chopper or some bullshit like this. You never hear of them again, but they were all fairly, for the budget they had, well made, got in, got out, had a lot of fun, cool moments, cool words, and cool characters. And that's what this is. It's fun to watch Punisher outsmart everybody, and it's fun to watch, and it's fun to see U.S. Agent kind of come over to Frank's side a little more than he even thought he was going to. Even knowing going in, he kind of sided with him a little bit. So those are kind of my overall thoughts, I think. It's just, we keep going back to this. It's just a fun book. It's laid out well. The characterization's great. The dialogue's really fun. The only real issue I have with it, and this is so nitpicky, and I'll ask Gregory Wright about this sometime, is why is it behind this paywall? There's no reason necessarily for it to be an OGN. There's nothing in here that really happens that couldn't have happened in a code-approved book. Is it just like, hey, we're putting out as much Punisher stuff and we could get the money for it, which I totally understand.
That was my thought, right? 1990 and OGN, you got that sweet cover price, you got that cardstock cover, right? You got to get this out as quickly as possible. That was my thought. I even wondered if he brought the story to an editor, or if an editor was like, well, we're gonna do one of these. If you got a story, we'll get that done for you. But
it certainly seems like it, because they put out a lot. They put out a lot of, and Punisher lends himself to original graphic novels. Some of them tend to be a little more violent, or a little, like we did Punisher Ghosts of Innocence the other day, and there's definitely a reason you put that one behind the paywall, because it's hardcore,
right?
As far as some of the subject material. But this wasn't significantly different from what you could read in Punisher War Journal at this time, and that's not necessarily a knock. I was just interested in the decision making to put it here, or you could serialize this in like a freaking 5-part Marvel Comics Presents. There's lots of places you could have put this. The decision is probably just a monetary one, but I'm always curious about those decisions.
I'm going to hop onto Mike's Amazing World real quick and just see what was on the shelves as far as what was on the shelf at that time, because maybe it was a situation where there were just so many stories going on. In 1990, we had War Journal was out at that point, and there's just the regular series, right?
There's also, I think, the Punisher magazine's going. I think Armory starts up. There's definitely, I think, Punisher Bloodlines also comes out in 90, and maybe Kingdom Gone.
Well, I'm taking a look here. We're going to Marvel Comics, 1990. What was on the shelf at that time? Punisher, as far as Punisher goes, we've got Punisher number 36, which it looks like it's got Jigsaw written on the front of it. Is Will still? No, this is Mark. Mark Teixeira is doing the art on that at that point. And then as far as War Journal goes, Punisher War Journal, I see the magazine. Magazine was issue 13. Punisher number 37 happened as well. That has, again, Mark Teixeira on art there, Mike Barron writing. So I don't know. It is kind of one of the questions I definitely want to ask is like, Punisher movie special #1 was on the shelf. It was on the shelf at that point too. Punisher War Journal number 21, which has Frank kind of hanging out in a body of water yet again. Just see the top of his head and it looks like he's in the jungle.
This is after the jet ski too, so don't forget about that.
Okay, what the jet ski? What do you mean?
The famous Punisher War Journal jet. You just rented the Punisher a jet ski. Kiss that baby goodbye.
That's good stuff. But I don't see any reason why it couldn't have been in either in the magazine or in the comic as well. But either
the
way,
magazine is a reprint book. It's reprinting.
Oh, is it?
It's in black and white. It's got those great painted covers, but it's primarily a reprint book. Although I think they missed the boat there because Marvel probably could have made a nice bit of money with original, more violent black and white Punisher stories that they also could have sold at outlets that were still selling stuff like Savage Sword of Conan. It fits very nicely next to that type. That format would have fit the Punisher very well, and it would have fit that audience very well. I think that Larry Hama used to say one of the big audiences for Savage Sword of Conan were guys who rode motorcycles and had a bunch of tattoos. Well, I don't think that you're going to, if they saw Punisher next to it, black and white, sort of like Punisher Max before there was Punisher Max, maybe not that hardcore, but very little interaction with the Marvel Universe, if any, just really gritty action stories. I think you can put that on the shelf in the 7-Elevens and stuff, which were still carrying these things at the time, next to Savage Sword of Conan, and that same demographic is going to happily pick that up. Be like, oh, yeah, it's not Conan, but he's got a gun, or what the heck ever.
Well, John Walker accidentally kills a man in this book.
I was going to ask about that too when I get a chance to talk to Gregory Wright, because he's an Avenger at this point. And this is a big bone of contention for Avengers, even the West Coasters, the wackos, as they would be called on occasion. But I thought that was very interesting. Did he have to clear that with the Avengers books or anything? Because this is a big deal at that time. So I wonder it was one of those things nobody even thought about until it got in print. And certainly U.S. Agent in Avengers West Coast was kind of the Maverick, and he had been placed there by the U.S. government, etc. And so they didn't like him, but eventually they grow to at least tolerate him, if not become his friend. But at the same time, I just don't know.
That's a big deal.
It seemed very out of place for an Avenger. And for him, his biggest problem, he's like, I killed a guy. I needed information. His first thought was like, should have got more info before I murdered.
Yeah, I remember him going, I did it again, mama, or something along those lines. He's sitting there regretting, thinking about his mom when he accidentally killed him. I did it again, ma. I've tried so hard to do what's right. And so there is serious conflict, and it's part of his character, but serious conflict with John Walker. But it took me by surprise when that happened. I did like the way it resolved with, just like we said, it was no escape. The Punisher makes him think that they're dead, that he's dead. And Micro's lucky to get out of there.
Micro's always lucky to get out of there. They're always kidnapping Micro.
Oh, poor Micro.
Poor Micro. I'm just trying to be fat and play combat on Atari 2600. Y'all leave me alone. Trying to get my Choco Bomb.
Choco Bombs. The other thing is that with John Walker's character, again, he is, not only is he conflicted inside himself, but he's also, seems like, as much as he wants to follow orders and believes that what the government is saying is right, there seems to be a little bit of resentment that he holds towards the federal government for the orders that they give him. Just a little bit. I'm just saying that it's not clearly evident, because he goes right back in there. He's like, here's the shirt of the Punisher. And I'm like, how about you go beat feet, buddy? We're tired of dealing with you. And he's just like, okay. He just leaves. John Walker, U.S. agent all the way. But
definitely, I think, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but for a lot of people with John Walker's political beliefs, there's a kind of cognitive dissonance between you're supposed to follow authority and you're supposed to do what leader tells you and fall in line and know your role and everything. But also, you can't trust the federal government. And you can't trust these experts. You can't trust anybody who actually has any authority. And to be honest, what you're supposed to do is find a healthy medium behind that. You're supposed to do your own research to an extent and be, okay, this is okay, but this isn't, it's blah, blah, blah. I'm going to follow orders up to this point, but these aren't orders I would ever follow. But it seems John Walker is struggling with that part of his identity because there's a very individualistic streak among those political persuasions. And how individualistic can you be if you're also always supposed to follow authority, but you're also not supposed to like the federal government, but the federal government is the one that's telling you what to do? It becomes, and I'm not saying it can't be sorted out. It absolutely can be. But these are two very loud, colorful streaks in this line of political philosophy that can be hard to make line up. Right. And I think John Walker's struggling with that right here. Not struggling with his shield, though, man. He's doing some good shield work.
My goodness. Taking out the legs of the Paladin, no problem.
Yeah. Is he going to be Cyber Paladin now that he's on Strike Force, or like Strike Paladin?
Strike Paladin. I love it. Oh, man.
Paladamnation.
Paladin. So got to roll with something there. I don't know.
Yeah. Blood Paladin. Just make it easy. Just put blood in front of it. We'll just go from there. Right.
That's perfect. I enjoyed myself here. It was 1990s Punisher. The Punisher is hot. Things are slowing down for the Punisher at all here. So it's kind of neat to watch him get together with these two guys. That what's going to happen? Is he going to be up against them? Is he going to be at odds with them? Is he going to be teaming up with them? And it's, you craft a good story. You said it was a light, kind of not really too in depth. It's a good kind of B movie action. All those things you guys said, I completely agree with. And I had a good time reading it. Coming out of this, I think it's what I enjoyed the most was watching the Punisher try to escape the captivity of these two guys, or at least make sure that he is not in their sights, at least for a little bit. Because even at the end, he's like, they're going to know I'm alive eventually here pretty quickly.
Right.
But regardless,
I'll get 20 minutes off. I really like the part where he was like, maybe they'll kill each other and that will solve my problem for me.
Right.
What really would have solved the problem, though, would have been the guy with the knife.
Oh, there he is.
From Madison Square Garden with the Carnage concert, because he could have taken out either Paladin or USA, just stab him in the neck, right in the neck. Punisher should have teamed up with him.
Oh, that'd been perfect. My goodness. All right, Dean, let's talk about plugs here, buddy. What's going on the Unspoken Decade?
We're celebrating 10 years of the Unspoken Decade, so please come and join us at our Facebook and look for us at theunspokenDecade.com. We're having lots of fun over there.
There's a lot of followers galore.
15,000 followers and 10,000 likes now, so we're doing something right.
Right. People are enjoying it. It's the 90s, baby. That's what we're here for. Put on some Wilson Phillips. Grab you a Punisher comic. grab you some Star Tropics and have yourself a Coke Zero. No, not a Coke Zero. I would have been back then. Coke 2. See if you can still find some of those. All right. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, check out the Source Material Comics podcast right here on the W2M network. And of course, the Unspoken Issues podcast, this here very podcast where we talk 90s comics. Go back into the archive. You can hear me, Dean, and Darry talking a lot of great comics here. Recently, we discussed Ghosts of Innocence with Matthew Price, which was a very good Punisher tale there. And also, we talked about Superman going to Supertown. He went to Supertown, hung out there for a little bit, in Jack Kirby's Fourth World number 20. So check all those out. And of course, join us here next week, or next show, I should say. And we'd love to have you. I don't know what's on the agenda upcoming here. We got, do you know what the next show is supposed to be? You remember off the top of your head?
Speeding Bullets.
That's right, Speeding Bullets. So keep an eye out for that. That's an iconic tale. Well, for Darry Waite, for Dean Compton, I'm Jesse Starcher. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.